Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope all is going well this week. Hopefully, you're ready to settle in for some history because it is History by Mail. It is the fourth and final part of the, I think it was called Patents and Inventions unit that they've been doing. Last month, we took a look at the Wright Brothers flyer, so this is the final one. And then September will start the final unit for 2025. So let's get in and see what we got. Oh, I see some sort of blueprint. What is said blueprint of? August 11th, 1942. H.K. Markey et al. Secret Communication System. What in the world is this? Hedy Lamarr. Wait. Hedy Lamarr. Hold on a second. Hold on a minute. Wait. U.S. Patent Office. Hedy Lamarr is the... I think that might be who I'm thinking of. If I'm not Yeah, torpedo guidance. I think this is... Oops, that's upside down. I think this is, this should be Hedy Lamarr, if I'm not mistaken, the actress / inventor, as history would later find out. All right, hold on, because I know Hedy Lamarr wasn't her birth name, and I think I don't know, hold on, let's see. Yes, we are correct. Hedy Lamarr's patent application for secret communication system. Application filed June 10th, 1941. Patented August 11th, 1942. All right, now this is a story I am familiar with. Probably not as much detail as we're going to get, but I do know the basics of it. So let's get in. If you guys don't know this one, settle in. This is a good one. Enclosed are 2 pages of a patent filed during World War II by actress Hedy Lamarr and musician George Antheil. The patent is for a frequency hopping signal intended to secure radio-controlled torpedoes, avoiding interception. The technology did not come into use until the late 1950s, and there's a reason for that we will find out. Hollywood star and inventor Hedwig Hedy Eva Maria I think it's Keisler was born in 1914 to a Jewish family in Austria. Vienna, more specifically, I think is where she was from. She began acting as a teenager in Austria and acted in several Austrian, German, and Czech films. In 1937, Hedy fled to London just before World War II. There she met Louis B. Mayer, head of MGM Studios, who was scouting for talent, and he convinced her to try acting in Hollywood films. Mayer convinced Hedy to drop her last name, and she chose the name Lamarr after silent film star Barbara Lamarr. Oh, interesting. Upon suggestion of Mayer's wife, Margaret, Mayer marketed Lamarr as the world's most beautiful woman, and Hedy was typecast as a glamorous and exotic seductress. Lamarr became one of the most famous actresses of the 20th century, starring in such hits as Algiers from 1938, Boomtown from 1940, and Samson and Delilah from 1949. When not filming, Hedy used her time to conduct scientific experiments and create inventions such as fizzy cola tablets and an anti-aircraft shell. This is true. The cola tablets, I think, is the most interesting, because it was so unlike any of the other stuff that she was doing. I think because at the time, the man she was married to was, I believe, an arms dealer. Even from a young age, Hedy expressed interest in how things worked. At age 5, she disassembled and reassembled a music box. Inventions are easy for me to do, Lamarr said. I don't have to work on ideas, they come naturally. Well, you are very lucky. When World War II broke out in Europe, Hedy Lamarr felt guilty living an affluent lifestyle in Hollywood while people in Europe struggled with the war. Okay, see, I was correct. She had been married to an Austrian arms manufacturer, Fritz Mandl, from 1933 to 1937, and during that time she learned about weapons production and was introduced to many Nazis whom she loathed. Hedy wanted to do something to help the Allied cause. She traveled to 16 cities to sell $25 million in war bonds, started a letter-writing campaign to servicemen, and signed autographs for off-duty soldiers. The frequency hopping device. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. Hedy learned that the signals from Allied radio-controlled torpedoes were being intercepted by Axis forces and thrown off course. She thought of a device that would emit a signal that would hop frequencies and therefore could not be intercepted or jammed. Hedy later said, "I got the idea for my invention when I tried to think of some way to even the balance for the British." She asked her friend, composer George Antheil, to help her develop a device to implement her idea. Together they drafted designs for the system which are included in the enclosed patent. They used a player piano mechanism to help with the radio signals and devised a way for the radio transmitter and the torpedo's receiver to simultaneously jump from one frequency to another in a unique, undetectable series. Lamarr and Antheil worked secretly on their project, and even her ghost-written 1966 autobiography does not mention it. 14 months after filing, the patent was granted on August 11th, 1942, to Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil. Hedy Lamarr was married to screenwriter Gene Markey at the time, and used her married name rather than her Hollywood name to give the patent more credibility. Lamarr and Antheil offered their method to the U.S. Navy, but it was rejected for being too complex. The U.S. Navy at the time was also not receptive to inventions originating outside of military circles. Spread spectrum technology. It took years for the technology in the enclosed patent to be implemented. In 1957, the Navy shared the method with a contractor who used it to create a sonobuoy, a floating device in water that could communicate with aircraft or ships, mostly to detect submarines. The patent expired in 1959, and just 3 years later, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U.S. Navy installed signal hopping technology on all its ships blockading Cuba. Over the subsequent decades, frequency hopping technology has become ubiquitous and can be found in cell phones, Wi-Fi, GPS, and many other technologies. Hedy's idea became the basis of several multi-billion-dollar industries. Frequency hopping, also known today as spread spectrum technology, is not only more secure and reliable than using a single frequency, but also allows more users to communicate on the same platform with reduced interference, since each user utilizes a unique sequence of frequencies. It's really amazing. Like, when you read about it, you're like, oh, it makes sense. I would never have, but it takes an amazing brain to come up with something like that. The idea of protecting radio signals did not originate with Lamarr, however. Guillermo Marconi experimented with the idea in the late 19th century, and frequency hopping was used by a German radio company and described in part of a 1903 patent by Nikola Tesla. The German military also experimented with the idea in World War I. Lamarr and Antheil's novel idea, however, was adapting a device to coordinate the frequency hops, in this case, player piano rolls. Balancing Hollywood image and intellectual pursuits. Well, especially in that time, good luck. Lamarr's contribution to the development of frequency hopping technology was not recognized until decades later. At the time of the patent, Lamarr's producers wanted to preserve her image as a Hollywood icon and did not want her to be seen as an intellectual. In the 1940s, she was considered a paragon of beauty, having inspired the Snow White Disney cartoon. That, actually, I did not know. Lamarr's efforts to direct and produce 2 films in the 1940s were similarly discouraged by her producers. Even Hedy herself had a complicated relationship with her Hollywood image. "Any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid," she once said. Lamarr continued to innovate during her time in Hollywood. While dating film director, pilot, and business magnate Howard Hughes, she helped him devise a way to make his planes faster. She read a book on the fins of fish and the wings of birds, analyzed the fastest species, and advised Hughes that the wings on his planes were too square. Hughes put Lamarr in touch with his team of scientists and engineers to make what she requested. Hedy Lamarr had developed an addiction to pep pills that had been supplied by her Hollywood studio to keep actors looking fresh during long hours. Gee, I wonder what those could have been. Her behavior became erratic, and and her career waned. Her sixth husband divorced her in 1965, and in her later decades she lived alone as a recluse, twice being arrested for shoplifting. Still, she was always experimenting and inventing right until the end, including improvements to stoplights and a fluorescent dog collar. In 1997, Dr. Hatim Zaghloul, an Egyptian-born Canadian executive of the company Wylan, paid Lamarr 49% of the value of her patent rights and the right of first refusal for the use of the remaining 51%. Dr. Zaghloul had been inspired as a boy in Egypt by Hedy's invention. He contacted Lamarr, who was then in her 80s, and struck up a friendship. While Lamarr's patent had expired, Dr. Zaghloul wanted to honor her with some financial compensation, while at the same time boosting public relations for his company. Hatim worked with Hedy and to promote her patent until her death in 2000 at the age of 85. That's right, I do remember that she finally, at least she was able to receive some public recognition for what she did while she was still alive. Lamarr's acting career spanned 30 films over 28 years, and she was honored in 1960 with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Hedy Lamarr was remarkably both a Hollywood icon and a brilliant inventor. While Lamarr and Anthiel's efforts were not acknowledged at the time of their patent, they were later acknowledged by several historians, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and the U.S. military. This is the fourth and final document in our Patents and Inventions series. To learn more about Hedy Lamarr and frequency hopping technology, there is the link right there. And that, I had a feeling, because I saw Hedy, I saw this, I knew, for whatever reason, it's just one of those stories that I knew. And it really is an incredible story. So let's just take a look one last time at the patent application for, I mean, it's also, to me, it's incredible that a human mind can look at this and understand it. Like, I know you can, and I know if I took the time to do it, I could figure it out, but just to look at, a wiring diagram like this and to understand it truly is fascinating. And, Hedy Lamarr was so much more than just the Hollywood starlet that she was perceived to be, as is evidenced right here. But I like this one. That was a great one to end on. So that was the fourth and final of the Patents and Inventions. I can't wait to see what the next unit is going to be. But we'll have to wait until sometime in September for that. So thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you thought down below, and we will see you next time.